Are you looking for the best way to store your Jeep's soft top windows? Stay tuned to find out more. Hello and welcome back to In the Garage. I'm your host, Stephen Feelers. Today we have a very cool product from Rightline Gear. Have you been looking for a way to store your Jeep's soft top windows in a secure way without getting them scratched? Well, look no further. We have a great product again from Rightline Gear. Let's look at some of the details on what makes this stand out against the products that are on the market today. Today's vehicle is going to be a 2016 Wrangler Unlimited Sport Edition. Okay, so we have the soft top window cover bag here on the table. As you can see, a few of the things that I do want to point out that makes this stand out against the competitors out there are, first of all, the material that it's made of. This is a PVC coated material, so it's going to stand up against all the hardships, weathering, anything you can expect out of an environment a Jeep's going to be in. This is going to keep you protected against. A few of the other things I do want to note are some of the welded seams and the urethane coated zippers. Now these work together to keep moisture and water out of the cover to keep your windows safe from that weathering as well. Let's take a look at what's in the case. Okay, so let's take a look at what's inside of the bag itself. Okay, let's get it unzipped here. So first thing you're going to notice is this looks a lot like what the material that a wetsuit's made out of, and that's because it is. This is a very nice, high quality neoprene material, and because it's what the wetsuits are made out of, it's very water resistant and it's very durable. So this is a very high quality material. Again, it's very non-abrasive, so whatever the case may be, if this is going to be rubbing against your soft top windows, you want something that's going to be very non-abrasive for your soft top windows because they scratch easily, especially in the midst of dust, debris, whatever the case may be. With that said, let's go and get the back glass off and show you how that's going to work. Okay, so as we're removing these windows, the one thing you do want to note is to keep this rear window bar in place. So as we begin to do this, just make sure that stays in place because this is going to provide structure to the bag, and we'll show that a little bit more in detail later in the video. Without further ado though, let's go ahead and remove these windows. Alright, so as you can see, we've removed the side windows and the rear window here from the Jeep, and we're going to put these in the neoprene cover here, the neoprene sleeve. So all we're going to do, this is one of the side windows, we've already got one loaded in there. What we're going to do is lift up part of the sleeve, and do this one at a time, by the way. It just makes your life a lot easier. Do it one at a time. And what you're going to want to do is to slide this in such a way that it's perfectly flush against the seam, and you'll be able to feel this and tell if it's where it needs to be. But move around, get it against the edge of this seam here, and you can feel that as well. So make sure that it's up against the seam, on this seam and this seam. So maneuver it until it's just like you need it, and it is. So now we'll make sure that everything's covered up correctly, and we'll proceed to the next step. Okay, so the next step is going to be your rear window. So like the other two windows, the side windows, we're going to lay it flat, face up. So just like so, and get it as close to the seam as you can. One thing I do want to note is that this sleeve will work with your CJs, your YJs, your TJs, and your JKs. So it's going to be sort of universal in that regard. But basically what we're going to do at this point is we're going to roll the neoprene cover over, flatten it out the best you can, and from this view here you can really see if your rear glass is lining up properly. What you want to do is bring it back as close to the seam as you can. You can flatten this out and feel where it's at. So we're just going to draw it as close as we can, making sure that the top stays pretty tight. Okay, once you're satisfied with that, you're going to try to grab from the center here. Now at the center, if you're doing this alone, you're going to want to grab from the center and roll from the center, just like so. And you're going to want to keep the right and left sides pretty tight as well as you do this. So keep it tight and roll it up. Just like so. Okay, and the next step is to clasp them shut. Again, you want to keep it pretty tight. So I'm actually going to shorten these out a little bit. Make sure it's very tight. Okay. All right. So once you've done that, once everything's tightened down, we're gonna put it in the bag. So let's see if it fits and we'll be good to go. Okay, so now that we have the windows in the bag and everything is in place, let's go and talk about mounting options. So one of the things that you're gonna wanna do first is just lay it in the general area that you wanna mount it. So we're just gonna put it in the back here. And this gives us just a better perspective on where we wanna put it. Two things to note when you're doing this mounting job is that you don't wanna obstruct your view. So you don't want it too high on your bars. So here, that may obstruct your view a little bit, but you also don't wanna put it too low because that can restrict access to your cargo area. So you wanna find that happy medium on the bar. And we're gonna show you where we put it in just a second. So what works best for us? We found that if you want to get the optimum distance between your obstruction of view and the cargo access, it's typically a good idea to line this up with the top of the spare tire because that's obstructing the view anyway. So it may be just a good idea to line it up just about that same height. So we're gonna go up probably about right there. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna lay this back down and I'm gonna come around the side so I can actually do this. And take our straps and then pull it up. If you pull too hard, you may lose your balance on that side, so just be cautious of that. We're gonna come around, get it about where we want it. That looks about right. So there is a little bit of a balancing act involved in this, but it's not too bad. So once you get it snapped in, you can then tighten it to make sure it's a good fit and that it's not gonna move anywhere. It's about good. And this one's a lot easier because that side's already attached. It's gonna be level. So we can attach it much more easily. And the key though is to make sure that you've got it nice and level before you make your strap. Looks good to me. So let's go ahead, proceed, tighten it as needed. Conceal the strap here and take a step back. Level it up as you need to. It's a job well done. Okay, so let's talk about an alternative mounting option. So before we mounted it lower on the bar, and as you can see, if we have our top down, it's impossible to mount it there any longer. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna mount it to the top of the Jeep instead. And this has a distinct advantage of being completely out of the way of anything else. So it's not gonna obstruct your cargo access, anything like that. It's completely out of sight, out of mind. And also, there's one thing that you wanna note is that when we did pull the rear window off and rolled it up in the bag, we kept the bar into the rear window. What does that allow us to do? So if you're going down the highway or the interstate, you're gonna get some wind, of course, and that's gonna blow in this bag. And without that bar in the bag, you're gonna have some bending and some sagging, and that's not any good. So having that bar in there adds us another level of sturdiness. It's gonna stay a little more in shape and in put, which is gonna be expected and it's really what you need on the road. So guys, that's just another great mounting alternative, thanks to Rightline Gear. Okay, now that you've seen the exterior mounting options along the roll bar, let's look at the interior mounting options on the headrests. So, we'll just feed it through, kind of like we did before. And then what we're gonna do is just maneuver this in a way that you have pretty good access to it. I'm gonna get in the back seat and lift it to where I can really access it. And then start. So there's two sets of straps. You have the external straps for the roll bar. Then you have the internal straps that are good for the headrest. They're a little bit longer just for that reason. So get some pretty good leverage first, like I just did there. And then once you have one strap, the other one's gonna be a lot easier. So let's now go to the passenger side and do the same thing. And if you wanna keep these a little bit loose, just for now, so you can at least get the strap done, you can, then you can tighten it later. So now that they're done, I'll just tighten it up. Get it where I want it. And that's all there is to it. Again, out of sight, out of mind. So for sake of argument, let's say you have a 2-door Jeep. In this case, we have a 4-door, but for sake of argument, let's go ahead and install these on the passenger side and the driver's side seats as well. So, just like the rear seats, super easy. All you're gonna do is get into a position where you can lift it, especially if you're doing this as a single man job. For here, this works for me. So I'm just gonna get one lined up pretty well. Give yourself some extra space to work with. Just makes your life a lot easier up front. And you can tighten it as you need to. Just like that. And once you have one side done, again, the other side is much easier. And then tighten it as you need it. And again, there is a little elastic strap here along the, as you can see there, and you can just feed this extra line in as many times as you need to minimize the effect that has on your neck especially. So as you can see, 2 mounting configurations, out of sight, out of mind. I'm not going to get in any way, shape or form in the way of your cargo, anything like that. Okay, so you've seen the Rightline Gear soft top window storage bags. There are many configurations along the roll bar and behind the headrests on the rear and front seat configurations, as well as the applications that these fit. So the CJs, TJs, YJs, and JKs, they're all gonna fit and fit well. And the major goal behind this product itself is to make it easier to be a Jeep owner. So removing those side windows and rear windows could really be a pain, especially if you didn't have a place to put them that was gonna keep them scratch-free and protected. And Rightline has answered that problem with this product. The neoprene sleeve inside does a great job at keeping those protected and scratch-free for years to come. If you want more details on this product, a part number, check in the description below for all that information listed out, as well as a dealer locator, so you can find a dealer near you. Thanks again for tuning in. This has been Performance Corner in the Garage.